Hey, what's up? This is Pop Zero. So, since season 13 came out for Apex, rank has been kind of hard, and I honestly like the new ranking system. But a lot of people who used to play rank can't be using the same characters anymore, especially while solo queuing. So I thought I'd make a tier list of characters I think that are very useful solo queuing. Mind you, this list is just basically my opinion and what I think would be the best characters if you're solo or if you're solo queuing. Now, that's to say some of these characters will probably be higher on the list or lower on the list, I'm sorry, if you're playing with a team and they're not as useful. But uh yeah, so I figured I'd just make a good solo tier list. Now, this list doesn't have the new legend castle, so I'll go over at the end where I think castle will fall in. Let's get started. So I think we'll start with Ashe. I think Ashe, as for a solo character, like, playing without a team, I think she's A tier. I don't think she's good, and her passive is okay. Her Q is okay, which is the stun, and her ult comes back pretty fast, so you can use her for move. But I think she's A tier. I don't think she's as great as she is with the team, but her like solo, you can use a lot of her abilities pretty fast, especially with the gold helmet. And she has like an escape through her ult. Bang. I'm gonna put Bang also A tier. Only just because her passive, double time, is really good for escaping gunfire, along with the use of her smoke for smoking out people or using smoke to break lines of sight unless they have a digit that are really strong. I think Bang, the character itself, if you're playing with a team, not solo, is generally pretty weak. But if you're solo queuing, Bang's actually still a very strong choice. I mean, just look at Shiv FPS, whose main's Bang. He does that with great success. I think Bang has a lot to offer for a solo player who has no real communication with his teammates if you choose not to listen or talk about things, which is, the most of the time when you're solo queuing. All right, Bloodhound. I'm going to put Bloodhound on S tier just because his passive for tracking footsteps is still strong. His scan in gunfights will definitely help, and his ult is super good. I think Bloodhound just altogether is a strong character, whether you're playing alone or playing with a team. Is he amazing at like escaping or anything? No, not really, but he's super strong for information gathering. And even if your randoms don't take advantage of, listening to you following footsteps or your scans, like his ultimate alone is super strong just for you to use without you having to call out stuff or using the rapid scan of Hound. All right, Caustic. I'm gonna put Caustic B tier. Caustic is a fortified character, so you will take less damage with him, which is pretty nice. But in order for you to use Caustic effectively, it's more of a passive play than it is an aggressive. Now you can't use his barrels aggressively, especially with his ult if you're trying to take a building or you're trying to take some type of hallway. Um, Playing Caustic is not a bad choice, but without you really coordinating with teammates, Caustic is pretty hard to play, and most of the time, most randoms won't actually be willing to push fights from the way I've noticed playing ranked this season. Uh, Caustic is a fine character, but I don't think he's one of the better solo queue characters. Crypto. I'm gonna put Crypto E tier. He's not completely useless. Um, he's one of those characters where if you're playing him alone, he's not very strong. Or actually, he's rather weak. Where if you're playing with him with a group or with a few friends who can coordinate like pushes with your EMP or your drone to actively scan, he's super strong. But as a solo he's pretty weak, and you really need to coordinate a lot with. If you're on your drone to go out and EMP, like someone needs to sit next to you and essentially protect you because you're just going to be a gun down in the fight. A lot of the time, randoms won't even wait for your EMP to go off to really go in and push. They'll, you can send your EMP in and just, you might not be able to capitalize on the situation. So crypto is really hard as a solo to use. So I would put him E tier. He's not completely useless, but he's also not that strong. Fuse, I'm gonna put B tier. Fuse is an interesting character because while most characters have some type of defense skill or passive skill, Fuse was meant to always be a damage dealer character, whether it be through his weapons, his ult, or his Q. I mean, even his passive is hold more grenades. So Fuse can be very strong just to get initial damage on people, annoying them with the knuckle cluster, destroying doors, just nade spamming in general. Fuse is a pretty solid character, in my opinion. The only problem with Fuse is without a movement legend with him, he's not particularly strong. So if you're not running an Octane or a Pathfinder to help him get around, he's pretty like average at best. Now, if you're someone who can gunfight and can win their engagements with gunfights or even nade spam, Fuse is such a great character. And I think just because he doesn't really have any movement capabilities, he's a B tier legend. So for solo queuing, he's still strong, just not as strong as he could be. Gibraltar. I'm gonna put Gibraltar in B tier. Only because Gibraltar is such a strong legend. I think in ranked play or even in playing with your friends or even just one other person playing, he's really strong with the group. But as a solo queue character, he's not particularly strong if you can't coordinate with your team to push a bubble fight or to maybe use his ultimate to kind of like make space to either get away or get into a fight. His gun shield's good and it can definitely save you, but as a solo character, some people just aren't coordinated enough to bubble fight or know when to bubble fight or even when to use the bubble as an escape or a quick res. So as a solo queue character, Gibraltar is strong, but I don't think he's very good at all. So I'm gonna put him B tier just because he has so much utility that you can make him work, but it's not really worth it. Okay, Horizon. I'm gonna put Horizon C tier. And the only reason why I put Horizon C tier is just because her black hole is super good, but a lot of times people maybe not know how to use it or they'll destroy it instantly. And unless you're actually doing the coordinated stuff with your team, which, might be hard with randoms, she is pretty strong, but also not at the same time. She's kind of in a weird spot where if you know how to play Horizon and use her Q effectively and use the fact that she can jump off high stuff with no stun, Horizon can be really strong for moving around or even just using like her black hole. Pairing her with the fuse is really strong because you can try to like suck people in and the fuse could ult around your ult. But as a solo queue character, even though she is very strong, I'm just gonna put her C tier only because you have to put a lot of time in with Horizon. You can't just pick her and do instantly well, in my opinion. The Apex medic. I'm gonna put her F tier. Lifeline is not a really great character, or even in a great spot in season 13. Her Q is really strong to get docked, to give people health if you're running low on med kits, which is okay. Her passive is, yeah, I mean, it's useful, but a lot of times, like, if you have a guy down, like, chances are they're not going to be in a very good spot to res anyways. And her ultimate is not really that strong, honestly. Yeah, she can give you gear and a little bit of meds, but if you have a decent like way you loot, or you and your randoms drop somewhere like okay for loot, you never really take full advantage of her ultimate. And with one of the other legends, actually the next legend, getting loot is 10 times easier. So Loba, I'm gonna put Loba A tier, and the only reason why I put Loba A tier is her Q as a teleport is pretty strong if you can like kind of learn how to do it to get over certain walls or to get onto high areas so you can shoot down at people. Her passive lets you see purple items through walls and gold. Lets you see purple and gold items through walls, which is not particularly too strong. I think overall, Loba is not a great legend, and the only reason why I put her so high in a solo queue tier list is if you're still learning the game, or you need to help out randoms find gear, that's where she's super strong. I think Loba as a character in like a team composition is actually one of the bottom tier, but for solo queue, she can be pretty strong, not only giving yourself loot through her black market and obviously ammo and heals, and you can pretty regularly spam it if you have a gold helmet or even just in general because her ultimate comes back so fast. So as a solo queue character, she's actually really strong, especially if you have teammates who maybe take forever to loot or just aren't fast at looting. She can definitely speed up process of looting POIs or death boxes just by having her around. Her Q is probably her only escape, and it's not very good. So you definitely need to play more passive with it. I do think she's an A tier character, but um, for if you're playing with a coordinated team, she's not very good. Mirage. I'm gonna put Mirage in D tier. His passive to be invincible while resing is super good, I guess, if you get knocked at range, or if there's such a chaotic team fight that people aren't going to be looking for the invisible Mirage trying to res. So you can actually use his res to like play pretty sneaky. But other than that, there's not really anything useful about Mirage. You can use his Q to make a hologram clone and send it out, and people will shoot it, but unless you're really there to capitalize on knowing their exact position in that moment, you're not really going to be used very well, I guess. On top of that, his ultimate is super strong in terms of like confusing people. And actually, if you compare him with a Bangalore to use the smoke, and then the Mirage can use his ult in Bang smoke to cause even more confusion, it's actually pretty good. But once again, that falls in the line of you need a teammate or need a teammate you can coordinate with. So as a solo queue character, Mirage is actually pretty lackluster. So I would put him D tier. And the only reason I would put him B tier is just because you can use his passive for invisibility res, which honestly is stronger than Lifeline's res, where Lifeline can res and still fight. Okay, Octane. So I'm putting Octane S tier and solo queue only just because. Look, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people don't know how to play Octane right. Octane is one of these characters where people will pick him and they push fight solo, they push fights when they don't mean to, or they stim around too much and they get too low of health and they don't have good armor and they'll go into down. But if you play Octane smart in a solo queue, he's actually one of your strongest legends to pick from because his stim makes him such a fast character that you can have unpredictable movements, get angles faster, and overall can be really strong. His ultimate also comes back very fast, which will help you cross the distance of the map insanely fast, or can create openings for you and your team to get out of bad situations. The problem with Octane, and a lot of Octane mains, or people who say they're Octane mains, is they are not good at knowing when to push and when not to push. the meme of Octane will push a fight 1v3 and go down is a real thing because a lot of players do that. But if you can play Octane smart and play pinks, play ankles, get in and out with him, then he's very strong for solo queue, especially with the use of his jump pads so you and your team can jump in. And because a lot of his kit is used solo, you don't need to worry about your teammates helping you or not in certain gunfights. Now, you still need to fight with a team, even with your randoms who are probably not good and trash, and still try to help them and protect them and, you know, still try to play together, but a lot of times that just isn't the case. So Octane is very strong for solo queue. It's just a matter of you cannot be that person who plays Octane, pushes a fight 1v3, goes insta down, and then blame your team. That's on you, homie. So as a solo queue character, Octane is very strong. Alright, Pathfinder. I'm going to put Pathfinder at a C tier. Pathfinder's super strong in terms of like playing with a team. And I know a lot of people like Pathfinder because of people like Timmy or Girl. But to be honest, as a solo queue character, Pathfinder's pretty hard to play unless you really know how to use his grapple for his Q. And on top of that, his passive, which is scanning survey beacons slightly faster, isn't useful when there's other recon legends like Bloodhound or Crypto. So it's not good. Now his ultimate does come back pretty fast and can get you to get high ground or even certain rat spots in Stormpoint. But honestly, taking his ultimate zipline isn't that great because, you know, if you're on it, people can shoot you off. They have a straight line of you or a straight shot of you and know a direction that you're gonna go all the time. So Pathfinder's a good character, but unfortunately, I don't think he's a good character for solo queue. And in order for you to really use Pathfinder effectively, you have to spend a lot of time with his queue. And he offers really nothing in terms of movement for yourself. He's definitely better with a team than he is, you know, with playing by yourself pretty much. So I'm gonna put Pathfinder C tier. Rampart. Rampart's actually very interesting in this meta. Because of Rampart's buff, she's actually not bad now if you wanted to main her for solo queue. She's definitely stronger with a team now, but solo queue, she became even stronger. And honestly, as much as I hate to say it, I think Rampart is a lot better character now than she was. So I'm going to put her in the B tier. Just because her walls are super strong right now. They give you a great damage boost. And her Sheila fucking shreds people now. Because the wind-up time is pretty much non-existent anymore. So I'm going to put Rampart as a B tier. Revenant is another character that I really fucking hate. Honestly, I'm gonna put Revenant E tier. His passive for blocking, or his Q for blocking people's abilities, is pretty useful. Honestly, I think it's the most useful part of his kit. Unless you pair him with a movement legend like Octane to create Revtane, that was a menace a few seasons ago. He's not very strong. And honestly, in Stormpoint, a lot of the fights people are taking, Revenant is just not a great character or a great spot in this meta. He can still be used effectively, but as a solo queue character, he's just not real worth it. Seer. Oh man, okay. I'm gonna put Seer. I don't know. I'm gonna put Seer as a C tier. And the main reason is just because Seer's Q is pretty good for stopping reses and stopping people from healing. But other than that, it's just not really great. His ultimate is super strong though. But once again, his ultimate is one of those things of if you are going to be using it, then you need to be using it to push with your teammates to help find a fight or to help finish the fight, which some randoms just aren't good enough to win their one-on-ones, unfortunately. Especially in lower tier lobbies where people are kind of playing more passively and more scared. So Seer is a strong character when playing in a group, but as a solo character, he's pretty weak. And honestly, it's just his ultimate that makes him strong. Because if you can take advantage of throwing his ultimate in a place where, you know, your enemies can't easily shoot it and you constantly get a free information of where they are in wall hacks, he's super strong solo. But unfortunately, the majority of his kit is just not really that useful, even for solo queuing. Even as a group, it's not even that strong. So I'm gonna put Seer C tier. Valkyrie. Honestly, Valkyrie's in a pretty good spot because Stormpoint's such a big map that even using her ult, most randoms know to get on it if you're using her ult, so it's pretty strong. Her Q is a pretty good stun. It takes a little bit to learn, and the fact she always gets a passive jetpack. I'm gonna put her at 8 here. She is super strong, but at the same time, the biggest problem with Valkyrie is she has real no solo capability, if that makes sense. Or I'm sorry, she has solo capability and she has a lot of team play. It's just a lot of times you have to somewhat be coordinated with randoms, but as a solo character, she's pretty strong. So I'm gonna put her A tier. Wattson. I'm gonna put her D tier. Wattson is definitely one of those characters in the meta right now where she's just not played as much. Unless you're playing her with a Caustic, she's not very strong. People can shoot her fences pretty easily, and sometimes it just don't outright work for some reason. I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced that glitch where enemies can still just run through your fences. I've had that happen to me a few times playing Wattson, but I don't know. As a team play character, she's pretty strong, or she's stronger. But honestly, as a solo character, she's pretty weak. You definitely need to coordinate a lot with your randoms, and sometimes that just doesn't go over well. So D tier. So Wraith. Honestly, I'm gonna put Wraith because Wraith is my main. And being honest about this character, she's obviously S tier because the minute you go down, it's a random's fault, and honestly, no one else's, and you're just better than your random, so you should definitely fucking blame them. So we're gonna put Wraith S tier. Now, in reality, Wraith is B tier. Her portal can make use of getting in and out of certain situations. Her Q takes forever and it isn't that great, especially for escaping now. Her passive voices in her head is good at letting your randoms know, like, hey, someone's looking at me. Um, Honestly though, as a team play character, she's pretty strong, but as a solo character, even though there's that term, sweaty Wraith main solo, eh, she's good, but compared to some of the other legends, she's not that great. At least not anymore. So we're gonna put her B tier because honestly, she just doesn't have a lot of great. Like she has a good kit, it's just very slow now. Oh man, Maggie. Honestly, I'm gonna put her A tier. Mad Maggie's Q isn't particularly strong, but it's definitely useful for getting people out of cover, especially on Storm Point, where if you're not fighting, you know, you're outside and there's like cars or trees that people hide behind. You can use this to kind of push them out. Her ultimate is pretty fucking strong as well. You can kind of use it like a pseudo Octane pad. Or Mad Maggie as a team player is not that strong. Her passive to have like movement with shotguns isn't really particularly useful, honestly. Um, yeah, her passive is pretty fucking lackluster. Her Q is pretty lackluster. It's just her ultimate is very good as a movement tool. I'm just gonna put her in A tier only because as a solo, like you don't really need a team to coordinate with when using her character, so I can put her A tier. All right, this is my list. Now, Castle. I know I don't have Castle here to kind of put on the list, but if I had to put Castle, I would put him at a B tier. Castle's Q is pretty strong. His ult's really strong, and his passive is definitely very strong. I would put, as a solo queue character, I would definitely put Castle B or A tier. As of making this video, it's only 4 days into the season, so I really can't be sure, to be perfectly honest. But the little that I have used him, he's been really fucking great, even in solo queuing. So I would definitely put him B or A tier, kind of depending on where you would put Gibraltar if this was your list as a A or B tier. Then I would put Castle right next to Gibraltar. So there we go. That's my list of characters I think that are really good this season for solo queuing. I will be making a list of characters that are going to be good if you're going to be playing with at least one other person to coordinate or with a full 3-stack team. But until then, thank you for watching. If you disagree with the video or disagree where I put legends, comment down below. If not, then thank you for watching if you got this far.